Long in development, much anticipated Grand Theft Auto 5 is due in game stores in less than a week. Hard to believe, I know, and I thought it was high time for us to take a look back at the history of the franchise, which I'm going to do right after I jack this car. Get out of there. Get out of there. Get out. Get out. The series dates back to 1997. This is what video games looked like in 1997. And this, and this. The GTA franchise, with its debut on the PS1 and the PC, offered something completely different. You weren't a good guy, you were a down and dirty no-good criminal, an anti-hero long before Walter White, Dexter, and Don Draper. Your tasks involved pulling off heists, executing robberies, and orchestrating assassinations. The game's other great strength, in addition to its darker, more adult subject matter, was the virtual open world it was set in. Missions had destinations, but how you arrived at those destinations was almost always a matter of personal choice. This kind of non-linear flexibility in games was still a novelty in 1997. Grand Theft Auto 2 arrived in 1999. Set in the not-so-distant future, the game introduced the notion of rival gangs, including Yakuza, the Russian Mafia, and a band of hillbillies calling themselves the Rednecks. Some of the wry attitude and off-kilter sense of humor that would permeate future iterations of the game was already intact. For example, there was an Elvis-themed tavern called Disgraceland. But it was Grand Theft Auto 3, released in 2001, that proved to be the grandest GTA of them all. The newfound over-the-shoulder or behind-the-car point of view with a fully articulated three-dimensional Liberty City was a sight to behold. The first thing I noticed was that I could drive around the city stopping at red lights and obeying traffic laws. This was a living, breathing world, complete with day and night cycles and ever-changing weather. The second thing I noticed that excited me was two AI-driven cars getting into an accident and then the drivers getting out and having an argument. And one of my favorite pastimes in the game was to drive out to the pier each night and watch the moon come up over the ocean. Grand Theft Auto 3 would go on to sell a jaw-dropping 14.5 million units, and Rockstar already had a quickie sequel in the works. Tough act to follow, not for publisher Rockstar. They decided to use their newfound clout to turn their 2002 follow-up/expansion pack into a bona fide pop culture moment. Rockstar hired actors like Ray Liotta, Dennis Hopper, Burt Reynolds, Gary Busey, and Tom Sizemore, among others, to lend their vocal talents to the game's characters.
Let me think for a second. Tommy Vercetti just doesn't cut and run.
And gone are the mostly obscure ditties found on the radio in GTA 3. Instead, what you get in Vice City are licensed mid-'80s songs from Bryan Adams, Ozzy Osbourne, REO Speedwagon, and Michael Jackson. Man, nothing beat driving around a faux Miami at sunset while listening to Night Ranger's Sister Christian.
And you know that you're the one to say, okay.
Vice City would go on to sell an amazing 17.5 million units, and once again, Rockstar was not content to rest on its laurels. The Grand Theft Auto saga will continue next week with more than a little virtual motor oil and a little hot coffee, too.
Something like this.